month, and last month technically, was When the Lights Go by Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs. So it's kind of a mouthful there, but basically it's a producer. He's this like British dude. His real name is Orlando Higginbottom. I don't know if that's better or worse in terms of a band name or a group name. Um, so his first album came out in 2012. So it's been 10 years since his last album came out. And he's been dropping singles from this album for a little while now, so people kind of saw this coming. But this is a pretty highly anticipated album in the electronic community, I would say. Um, as someone who looks in Reddit forums and may not be a part of that community, but may be electronic adjacent, I would say. Um, so yeah, when I gave this a listen, I like it came up to me on like I don't even know some Reddit forum like recommended it. I gave it a listen and I loved it. I thought that it was a super well produced, just from front to back. It's kind of a longer album. It clocks in like a little over an hour, and it hits a bunch of different moods. There's a ton of different like moods that each song kind of hits. So I think as an album, it flows really well. There's a couple songs I don't like quite as much, but overall, it's just a great listen start to finish. Again, like I said, very well produced, like really catchy beats. It's got a lot of synth and kind of bass lines that are kind of like retro feeling. Kind of it feels like 80s, 90s almost. Like there's a couple songs that are like 90s club, like house bangers. It feels like on there. So yeah, like I said, it hits a bunch of different moves. My favorite songs, I really like "Never Seen You Dance." That's just like a dance song. It's a great song to party to. "Crosswalk," the first song on the album, is great. I think it's a perfect intro. Hooks me from the beginning here. "Sound and Rhythm" is kind of like a more house-based song, which I really liked. And I really like "Friend" too. "Friend" was just a sweet love song. So kind of up and down, just really good album. He's a great singer. Man, it's just not fair. Some people have all the talent. You can be a great producer and a great singer at the same time, and just like it's bullshit. So yeah, this is a new artist for me. I'm really excited to kind of dive into his stuff. He's produced a lot of stuff, kind of just all over the place on that first album. So yeah, we'll definitely be listening to this one a lot. I love this album. I think it's gonna end up being one of my favorite albums of the year. So
Yeah.
excited to talk about it. So
Yeah, I also really like this album. I was actually bummed. This was your last month's choice, but we didn't get a chance to speak about it. So I've been listening to it like since you recommended it last month. And I also really, really enjoyed it. There's so many different feels on this album. Like it gets really dancey, but then like Blood in the Snow is like totally different, like more instrumental heavy. But yeah, I also really like this album. What songs did I like? Crosswalk, Persuasion, Blood in the Snow. Forever is like such a cool jam. I really like that one. Never Seen You Dance, Treason. Yeah, there's some low points on the album for me though too. Where I thought it kind of it didn't really give me any sort of feeling. I was just like listening, but like it just really didn't do much for me. But besides that, when this album hits, it hit really well for me. So yeah.
I really like this album a lot. I agree that maybe it didn't need to be an hour and 4 minutes long. I think there were maybe a couple of low points there, but when it hit hard. I loved the like 80s sort of like feel of story. When I first heard Sound and Rhythm, I was like, that is a 90s club hit immediately. Like that hi-hat right there. It was like, I was like, this is kind of cheesy, but it's also a lot of fun. And I don't know, I thought that Never Seen You Dance and Crosswalk were just like such fun, like poppy, like just really energetic songs. Like I would go to the gym and listen to those. Like it's hard to listen to them and not be in a good mood. I think like The Sleeper, it's a little slower, but I think for the most part, when this album is hitting, and there's some great bass lines on this too. I think I can't remember which one had a really good bass line. I'll think about it. But I went back and listened to his first album, and it was totally different.
Oh, really?
It was kind of like Aphex Twin.
So it was 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's
And
crazy.
this is more like this kind of reminds me of like M83. This is like it's electronic, but it also has a lot of live, like, you know, there's clearly a lot of live instruments on it. And going from like purely electronic in 10 years to like actually like recording live instruments kind of out of the blue, he really blew it out of the park, I think, and reinvented his sound.
Yeah, I got a lot, pretty much the same stuff to say, but yeah, I just think, well, first off, like all the electronic music that I feel like we kind of cover on this channel, because I don't listen to a lot of electronic stuff, but I feel like this and like the Roosevelt kind of album, like stuff like that, a lot of what Jets picked. I feel like it's not just like electronic, but yeah, like the stuff with like the instrumentation also in that they involve into it, like especially like the bass line on these tracks are like super catchy, and they really drive the songs, which keeps me engaged, so love that. But yeah, I mean, I think like my favorite kind of section was that the story kind of 80s sound going into sound and rhythm. But yeah, I agree with what Tim said. I don't think it needed to be so long. It's like it's kind of a you can't, I don't know. You guess you could listen to it all at once, but it's like over an hour of just like constant like.
There's definitely a few filler songs that you can tell are filler. Like,
yeah, but I mean, he had a lot to do in the 10 years, so I had to put it out there. So good for him. I was digging it. I'll keep listening to it.
Never Seen You Dance was the bass line I was talking about.
Yeah.
That is a great
Yeah,
bass line. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, this album does sound like a lot like Roosevelt. That's kind of like what I got when I listened to it.
Very, very similar vibes to Roosevelt. Yeah.
Which I'm not mad at all.